I know we lost some folks because of this, and that's so sad. We got to figure it out. We need some help. Anybody knows anybody? But anyway, so last week, I don't know if Lois could get that up for us again. Like last week, we stopped and at again this discussion on emotional maturity. Okay. And the scripture that we used last week, as I was saying before we went off air, the scripture that we used last week was 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And you said it, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away, of course, childhood things, of course, behind me. And so that was the basis that we used for this program. And last week we talked about the idea that when you are emotionally mature, emotional maturity is the ability, we defined it, to manage your feeling, take accountability for your own actions, and respond to life challenges with grace rather than reacting impulsively. And it represents, last week we said, the shift from needing external validation to finding inner stability and self-awareness. Those were some of the things that we talked about, right? And I read something from this guy by the name of Dr. Scott Gronto, I think that's his name, and he talked about emotional maturity is at the heart of a positive relationship with others and ourselves. As Esther Pearl, and this is one of our favorite relationship folk or person puts it, the quality of your life ultimately depends on the quality of your relationship. Listen, everybody, without emotional maturity or at low levels of emotional maturity, relationships will be challenging, unhealthy, and in some cases unsustainable. And that's what I was saying, that if you're not in a space where emotional maturity is being displayed or happening, the relationship will be very challenging. Not only that, but the relationship would be unhealthy, and in some cases unsustainable, untenable, and ultimately a relationship that does not have emotional maturity will ultimately destroy itself. It won't exist. So those were some of the stuff we talked about, and we looked at people like John Hudson Finley when he said maturity is the capacity to endure what? Certainty. We looked at stuff like that. And then Lois, I think, went ahead and kind of looked at how emotionally immature people behave. You talked about that, and you gave like fourth thing. There'll be deflection, there'll be minimizing, what else again? Gaslighting, and the victim stance. That one was pretty powerful. And victim stance just mean, somehow that person who is emotionally immature always end up being the one who has been wronged. Yeah. The emotionally immature person is always in the space where they feel like they are being wronged. And so that's just some of the things we talked about last week, right? And so I think also we talked about deny, attack, and reverse. Remember those things? When somebody's confronted with their behavior, the immature person would always deny that they did anything wrong. They always attack the person who brought up the fact that they have done wrong. And in some cases, they don't want to talk about the fact that they have done wrong. They deflect and run away. They don't really want to deal with it. And then they do something what they call in counseling, reverse the roles. Suddenly, they are the victim now. And you are the aggressor. versa, because they're not trying to hear
Anything
anything you're
say.
saying. So
Yeah.
what we're doing, we're giving you guys some of the behaviors of emotionally immature people.
Yeah.
So and then this was a quote, and then we're going to pivot forward. We looked at some mindful counseling center who put out this this ABP, or what they call it. Yeah, they put out this thing that or this SOS, or whatever you want to call it. They put out this stuff saying, and this is what they say: being in a relationship with emotionally immature people can feel like a one-sided, negative, draining conversation. You're all constantly walking on what? Eggshells. Right? Constantly walking on eggshells might aptly define your interaction with an emotionally immature person. Your experience and feelings are often discounted, anybody experiencing that, and ignored by emotionally mature people. Yet they provoke discord in your relationship and try to gaslight you due to feeling dismiss themselves, or that their reality is being questioned. Emotionally immature people do not like their reality to be challenged or questioned. They want to sit in that position, and that's their reality. It's almost an ignorant posture, but they feel comfortable there, and they don't want to get out of there. That's where they are. Do not try to mess up or mess with their reality. They're not going to have it, right? This dynamic can make you feel like you can think, you can't think straight, often referred to as brain scramble, they call it. Over time, due to extended dealings with emotionally immature people in a relationship, you may develop, and we're going to pivot right after this, depression, anxiety, or mental health conditions. All right, so if you missed out on it, you want to go back. I thought we'll just give you a little snippet of what we talked about last week, but this is what we want you to get. Over time, being in a relationship with somebody who is emotionally immature, and due to that extended dealing with them, right, with emotionally immature people in your relationship, you're probably heading for some sense of depression. You're going to deal with anxiety, or
it's like your whole personality changes because of a person who is emotionally immature. And so now you have to deal with that that low level way of
kind of
thinking
approach
towards everything.
Absolutely.
And so now it wears on your mind.
Right.
And so I can see where that right there is completely 100% correct.
And then last week we talked about, just to Lois, just before we pivot, we talked about how now to handle emotionally immature people. And a couple of things that we found through a place called, I think it's through the Valley Therapy.com, and through the Valley Therapy, and they put out a couple of things in trying to help couples out to deal with immature partners.
I'm going to put it up so you can go look at it for yourself.
Go look at it for yourself. And I think, Lois, this was very important because we found it to be a couple of things they say. Number one, how to deal with emotionally immature people. Lois, you could just throw it up there for them so they could see it. Because we're going to
there we go.
Number one, regulate yourself before you respond. It's important. It says pause, breathe, and pray. Oh my God. Don't match their chaos. Slow, deep breathing restores access to your, it says, prefrontal cortex, your logic and empathy center. So they can throw you off, so you have to be very careful. And it says keep communication, factual, right, Lois? And brief. Emotionally mature people twist your words. Stick to the logistics, not feelings, right? So that's a couple of things. It says don't jade. And Lois, you did this well last week. What does that jade mean? Don't jade. We're doing that again?
You continue. I just
okay, so
PowerPoint is this is just
all right. So don't jade, and that jade stand for justify, argue, defend, or explain. That word jade, it just means don't justify, don't argue, don't defend, and try not to explain. Right? The more you explain, the more material they have to twist your explanation. So you just have to be careful. Name the behavior, not the person. These are some things that you can use to deal with emotionally immature people. Name the behavior, don't attack them, right? Instead of you are manipulative, tell them, it's trauma informed, and keep the focus on safety. All right. I think we're just kind of trying to navigate the stuff going forward. And I think it's just frozen again. All right.
No, you are not frozen, Anthony. Just
they can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So those were some of the things. Go back and look at the program, and you'll kind of get where we are coming from. We did a lot, and so it's important that you just go back and check out what we have said and see what we were saying up there. Right, you guys, on that previous program that we have, because we have a couple of things we want to release here, and I don't want to just skip over that. Let's look at, so what we're going to do now, remember, I want to throw in Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 32. It says, he who is slow to anger is better and more honorable than the mighty soldiers, and he who rules and controls his own spirit than he who captures a city. So what that is saying, an emotional mature person knows how to do what? Conduct themselves. An emotional, mature person know how not to get angry and lash out against the person that is being emotionally immature. All right? All right, so I want us to pivot forward. I've got a couple of things that I want to share with you guys when we talk about emotional maturity. All right? Now, here is the thing. An emotionally mature person knows how to deal with, hear me out now, guys. This is, knows how to deal with a person when the relationship is in crisis. So let me explain that to you. When a relationship is in crisis and one partner has been hurt, repeated, so when that happens sometimes, you have one partner that calls, texts, and give explanations and apologies and attempts to force reconciliation, and that can create pressure. So an emotionally mature person in a relationship that has fallen on hard times or is in crisis mode, all right, knows how to respect the person who has been hurt. They know how to back down. They know how to back off. They do not repeatedly call the person, text the person, explain why this happened, apologize for what's going on, and they don't attempt to force reconciliation, because when they do, it can create pressure. Now, here's what I'm talking about. The injured spouse may feel that they are being asked to process the offender's anxiety rather than their own pain. And in those situations, giving the person space, the emotionally right thing to do is to, and beneficial thing to do, is to give that person space so that person can work that out. A lot of times what I'm saying is that a lot of problems come up in relationship, and relationships sometimes hit rock bottom. Relationships sometimes experience crisis. And one partner, what I'm saying, end up getting very hurt sometimes and don't want to deal with the other partner. So, but the emotionally mature partner knows how to navigate that and is not going to engage in any kind of destructive behaviors. And here are some destructive behaviors, those repeated phone calls and texts, sometimes texting a person 8, 9, 10 times, and it's kind of like the same explanation, the same apologies, and forcing themselves on the person. An emotionally mature person don't do that. And so when you do that, you set up this thing for the injured spouse to feel that they are being asked to process, the offender's anxiety, right? Rather than dealing with what they are dealing with. And in those situations, what you want to do, if you're emotionally mature, is to give that person space to operate. You don't want to keep pressuring that person. Remember, we're talking about emotional immaturity, and sometimes relationships go through crisis. It goes through like breakage sometimes. Something happens. Now, here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. Emotionally immature people, right, will reduce emotional pressure, right? The emotionally mature person will recognize that the injured spouse, right, needs room to think without feeling pressure. They need space and time. And it demonstrates respect. So what we're talking about here is when a relationship goes through some kind of disruption. And what we find in our counseling is that one or the other spouse is pressuring the other person. But emotionally, people who are emotionally mature won't pressure. They will find ways to reduce pressure and give room to the person who is going through that, who's suffering pain and hurt, right? And when you take time off, when you back off and give that person space, it really helps. So here's the concept I'm throwing out there. It's called the principle of restorative silence. People who are mature would want to learn what the principle of restorative silence means. And what that means is that after a relationship has been ruptured, intentional silence may create emotional space that reduces pressure, interrupts disruptive pursuits, withdrawal cycles, and encourages self-reflection, and it allows curiosity and voluntary engagement to be re-engaged, right? Now, from a biblical perspective, there's also wisdom in this kind